Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charnley. This is another historic church in Huntingdonshire. Again, Huntingdonshire today is a district of Cambridgeshire, but historically it was a separate county. This is All Saints Grafham. Now, the oldest part of the church here is the North Aisle Arcade, which dates from about 1250. There is a suggestion there was an earlier church on the site, but nothing of it remains. The chancel is added about 1400, and the church has been further extended in the 14th and 15th centuries. It's been relatively little altered by the Victorians. There has been a Victorian restoration, but it retains, as you can see, a plastered ceiling here, and then just over there, the dormer windows rather than a clerestory. So we'll have a look around and see what we can see. As usual, then we start at the west end. This is the back of the church, as it were. And here we have the font, which is a nice, appears to be 14th century font with carving on it. You'll notice that one panel appears to be blank. This may be that it was originally against a column and has been moved here later. Column might have been one of these of about 1240 in the north aisle. Looking east, you can see there's only one piece of stained glass here, and it's a modern one. Again, stained glass costs, and you need somebody to pay for it. So, and the restoration here has been very minor. You can see up there, there's the dormer windows. It's quite a common thing, in fact more common than it is today, to have dormer windows in churches, but the Victorians preferred either to remove them or to put in a full-blown clerestory. But it's all rather rustic here, which is very nice. We can see, just turn around slowly, there is the organ, which is by Conacher of Huddersfield. There's a vestige there of black letter wall painting, so post-Reformation, 16th, 17th, even 18th century wall painting like that's done. There is what would have been a north chapel, and you can see in here we have the what was the stair to the rood loft. You can see it's leaning slightly. That's because the aisle is leaning slightly outwards. The pulpit is very unusual with these pierced century patterns made by using a drill. Very nice. Just look back around the aisle here, and here we have the nave with that great big Conacher organ in front of the tower arch. There's the south chapel, which is 14th century, and there are the dormer windows, the poor man's clerestory, if you will. And the chancel. Now, historically, chancels they used for high status burials and also for the burials of the clergy. But here we have the war memorial. That is those who took part in the Great War, and it records those who died. Only 3, A.H. Ellis, T. Packwood and Frank Tyso. 2 died of wounds, 1 killed in action. But also we have memorials to members of the Puckle family who were long-serving rectors here. Just over here we can see, first of all, there's the Reverend Benjamin Puckle, 29 years rector here, and he died in 1853. And then Benjamin Hale Puckle, 39 years rector of this parish, died in 1892. We have here the reredos, and you can see we've got the 10 Commandments either side. I'm not sure about the flowers in the middle there, they do rather obscure the painted Jesus monogram, and I'm not sure they might not damage as well, but there we are. Here we have a memorial to Lieutenant Colonel John Puckle, drowned in active service 15th of April 1917 near Sifnos, Greece, so headed for Gallipoli, so the Gallipoli area. Commanding troops from transport Arcadian, so that's a requisitioned ocean liner, which was attacked by a submarine, and he remained to the last of his post on the bridge. His boyhood was spent at Grafham Rectory. And here we have Thomas Norman Puckle, son of Colonel Henry Glover Puckle. So this is the brother of Lieutenant Colonel John Puckle, yes, younger brother, in fact, captain 1st Battalion Leicester Regiment, and he's killed at Garoue in the Cameroons, German West Africa. So this is the often forgotten West African front of the First World War. And there we have the double piscina, and we have a dropped sill cedillion. You can see that the communion rails interrupt the cedillion because it's not used essentially following the Reformation. And we'll then head into the South Chapel. Before we do that, actually, it's a really nice brick floor. Again, something that's often missing if there's been a grand Victorian restoration. These pews would appear to be probably about 1800, at least the first half of the 19th century. And South Chapel. This would have originally been someone's chantry chapel, and here we have the one and only stained glass window. Jesus appears after his resurrection, and this was set in place in 2001. So, and here's a memorial, well, memorial window. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. And so we carefully turn around here, and there we have it. The inside here of this beautiful church of All Saints, Grafham. So we'll head outside. We'll pause in the porch before pausing the camera, because there is a nice there's a nice memorial, the remains of, just pause there, look at that, gorgeous. There's an effigy here. This is of course a medieval priest, been slightly defaced, and there's some bits and pieces here from, well, some bits of medieval windows, some bits of other thing. And so we're now outside All Saints Grafham. Now the interesting thing outside is this tower, because the base of it looks much more solid than the upper part. Although it's got a spire, suggests to me that there's been some change of mind at some point during the building. The tower dates from about 1400, so the opening years of the 15th century, and it certainly gives the impression there was a desire to make it much grander. Now most of the churches around here have spires, so having a spire isn't unusual, but the tower base just seems to me to be so grand compared to the rest of the building, even the rest of the tower. We'll have a look around and point out the salient features. So here we are at the outside. Just see if I can go back a little bit more to resolve that spire so that we can see the whole thing. Well, there's the spire. See the spire up there, and there's the nave with the two dormer windows. And here's the tower. The stair turret's slightly later, and may indicate the desire to rebuild the tower on a very, very grand scale, which never happened because there wasn't the money. it's a fairly, certainly compared to Ellington, this is a humbler building. It's made, as you can see, of just local stone. So the stonework is of a, I'm not saying lower quality, because maybe lower quality, but certainly it's cheaper, because the actual materials aren't being brought as far. Because that, of course, is what costs money if you're shifting expensive stone. You can see there, that's obviously later. What looks like brickwork in the belfry opening up there, and this very nice turret, which very much, I mean, it's just a bit massive for what's on top of it. Although it does need to be fairly massive to carry a stone spire, so there is that. Porch has been rebuilt in the 19th century. Not a lot around the north side, because the north side is, well, looks to me like, well, the north side is up against the hedge, basically. You can see here, I mean, I suspect that's the old rectory through the trees there. And we pass along the side. Notice these buttresses, notice also that there is a lee into the wall. Not unusual medieval architect, or some degree of architect, medieval masons. Medieval masons didn't have geological surveys, so if there's actually some soft ground under a particular aisle, which might be in addition to the building, then that might not be noticed until it's too late. Yeah, nice doorway. You can see again this leaning that requires buttressing. And you can see that buttressing obscures the window there, because it's had to be put on to keep the thing from falling over. And that lovely spire. You'll notice here this is not a brooch spire, rather that we have an octagonal upper part of the belfry, which then goes into the spire, which is another way of putting an octagonal spire on an otherwise square tower. And here is the east end. So we'll just pull out here at the east end. So here we go, east end and that lovely spire there. So it's the outside here at All Saints Grafham. So that's All Saints Grafham, Huntingdonshire. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.